Hi friends, it's Pastor Caitlin, and I'm coming to you live from our living room for another episode of Fireside Children's Church for South Point Christian Church. And this is week 2 of talking about we are all in this together. That's our theme for the next several weeks. And this week we are going to be talking about a very special verse from the Hebrew Bible, from the book of Ecclesiastes. I want you to say that with me because it's a big word. Ecclesiastes. And this scripture talks about how there's a time for everything. And I think that's really important to remember right now. There's a time for everything, and God is with us through all those seasons. And I want you to remember that. So I want you to open your hearts, open your spirits, open your minds to God's word as we listen. There is a time for everything. There's a time for you to make new things and a time to tear things down. There is a time for you to welcome and a time to say goodbye. There is a time to get ready and a time to stop. There is a time when you're hurt and a time to get better. There's a time when you cry and a time when you laugh. There is a time when you're sad and a time when you're filled with joy. There's a time to look for someone or something and a time to hide. There's a time to listen and a time to talk. There is a time to be angry and a time to love. Well, you might be finding that you have a lot of time on your hands this week. Something that we're doing in our household has to do with something that happened on Wednesday of this week. And Wednesday was Earth Day, which is a time when we recognize how special the earth is. And I think as Christians, we recognize how important God's creation is, and we get out into creation and explore. And I think this scripture in particular is so evident in nature. We see that there's a constant rhythm to life. Trees are budding right now. Some of the grass might be brown and dead in your yard. New birds are chirping and singing their songs. And sometimes it's stormy this time of year, which brings us kind of sadness sometimes. And also the sun's coming up, which really makes us happy and joyful. So this week I would encourage you to get out into nature and explore the rhythm that we hear about in Ecclesiastes. I want to share with you some fun little projects that we did with found nature items in our house. One of my favorite things to do is go to the beach. Many of you know that. And here in Nebraska, we don't have a lot of water. So whenever I go to the beach, I collect seashells. And something I used to do with my grandma was create little creatures out of seashells. So the boys and I this week have been busy creating creatures. This is one of our creatures. His name is Alfred the pelican. And then we also have a little creek by our house. So the boys and I made little rafts. And again, recognizing God's uniqueness and beauty in these seashells. This is a flattened scallop shell, or like a fan shell is what it's called. We've got scallop shells, and we use popsicle sticks. And so we took these out and had them float along our creek. They didn't float very well, but they were still fun. And we also explored in the creek this week bullfrogs. And if you ever want to find God's sense of humor, go sit next to a creek or a river and see if you can find the frogs. Because yesterday was sunny out and they just sat kind of floating in the water. They just kind of lay there with their heads sticking out and their eyes bugging out at you. And they're fun to watch. And you can just recognize the uniqueness that God has brought to our world and that we're called to care for it. It's been really interesting this week, boys and girls. We've heard a lot about how the virus is affecting, in a good way, the earth. There's less pollution in cities. There are dolphins and different kinds of sea life that have been in the Venice Canal that haven't been there in a very long time. So our waterways are becoming cleaner, the air is cleaner, and some people think that this is a season that the earth is getting to rest. And so when we think about our scripture in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything, and maybe this is a time for the earth to find renewal and rest from all the toxins that we've put into it with our busy world. So again, this virus has reminded us to slow down and to enjoy the beauty of God's earth. And so I would encourage you today to get out and play outside. It's been so beautiful here lately, but explore God's creation. And before we leave today, instead of a prayer, we're going to do a song. And many of you may know this song. It's called He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. And we're going to learn some signs. So we're going to do 3 verses. So we're going to talk about the little bitty babies. And you're going to go like this for the babies. So for sister, you're going to tap your chin and come down and cross. And for brother, you're going to tap your forehead and come down and cross your finger. Okay, so many of you may know this already. If you don't know it, I bet your mom and dad do. So have them come and sing along, and this will be our song prayer for the day. So it goes like this. He's got the whole world in His hands. 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 He's got the little bitty babies in His hands. He's got the little bitty babies in His hands. He's got the little bitty babies in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. He's got you and me, sister, in His hands. He's got you and me, brother, in His hands. He's got you and me, sister, in His hands. He's got the whole world in His hands. So boys and girls, get out in nature. Thank God that we live on this beautiful earth, and play together and enjoy God's creation this week as we think about the rhythms of life that Ecclesiastes talks about. Don't forget, we're in this together, and we miss you and hope to see you all soon. We miss you. Blessings.